All right, hey Vikings fans, welcome into another episode of the Skol Hop. I'm Evan.
And I'm Austin.
We're just a couple of dudes from Iowa. We like drinking beer, talking about the Vikings.
Yeah, we do. And tonight, we gave our thoughts on a new beer, that at least new to us, that we haven't had, the Recreational Red Ale from Great Revivalist Brewing.
Yes, it was super good. We would highly recommend it. We also took a peek at a few articles from friend of the show, Dustin Baker, which were very insightful.
Yeah, and now is the perfect time of year to talk about early free agency and draft talks, which we got from Dustin's articles.
Yeah, we did. And we also quickly gave an update on the beer that we've been brewing, and we'll hopefully get to try here on an episode very soon.
Hopefully. Yeah, that'd be really good. But until then, go ahead and grab a cold one. Join us for episode 82.
Skol.
Skol. All right, we just want to say thanks to show sponsor Big Top Ventures for sponsoring today's episode. If you're looking to take an all-inclusive trip to Mexico or Jamaica, reach out to Big Top Ventures. They've got some good connections with quite a few resorts between those two areas, so there's definitely a lot of options. And if you have any idea what it costs to go on an all-inclusive trip down there, or if you have no idea, reach out and they will give you all the information. I promise you'll be pretty surprised at the reasonable prices that you can pay to get a really nice vacation down in Mexico or Jamaica. So, Evan, you got to do it. I'm doing it twice in the next, 5 months or so. But listeners, if you want to reach out, Evan's pointing at their email address right now. Send Big Top Ventures an email at bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Again, that's bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. And just let them know you're interested, and they will get you hooked up.
Well, it's on my to-do list.
Wow, really?
I think I'm going to make a hot take right now.
Oh, man. We've been the podcast of hot takes for the last month or so I'm interested.
In less than 1 year, I will go on a trip with Big Top.
All right.
In less than a year. Okay. So I have until March 3rd of 2026. Mark it.
All right. You'll go on the trip.
I will go.
Not just book it.
Well, I'll book it. I'll book it.
Okay.
I'll book it. Okay. I'll book it.
I'll tell you right now, as of this moment, I have trips booked for May, July.
Yes, I know.
And then next July, so 2026. And there might be another one or two sprinkled in there before that next July trip too. So.
Somehow I believe that.
Well, and we've got the hookup. We got Big Top Ventures. They will hook you up, Evan and listener. So yeah, thanks Big Top Ventures.
Yeah, thanks guys. All right. I got some beer tonight.
You do.
I'm excited to try this one. Actually, I sent you a picture because I went to a different Hy-Vee than we normally would go to. We've got two that are pretty close to both of us. And I went to the other one and was just kind of perusing the shelves. I was there for some other stuff. And I'm like, well, let's see what they have in their Iowa craft beer section. And I saw some stuff that kind of stuck out to me, like, oh, I haven't seen this at our normal Hy-Vee. And this one from Great Revivalist, it's called Recreational Red Ale. Definitely jumped out to me because I like reds, and I was just looking for some new stuff that we haven't had before.
So when you first told me about this one, just the name and the can art, everything about it kind of made my ears perk up a little bit. It made me think that this is like a THC beverage, with that substance. Everything I can see is no, it is just a regular red ale. There doesn't seem to be any other substances in this beer. But the can art's hilarious. It's a bunch of like woodland animals that are drawn to look like they've gotten into some of that substance as well. I would love to hear from the artist and the brewers what the decision making went behind all of this can art. But before that, I'm really excited to give it a try.
Let's pour it up, see what we got here. It doesn't smell like the substance.
I'm totally positive that we're not like doing anything that we shouldn't be doing. Because it would say it on the can if there was anything in there other than alcohol.
Yeah, I think they have to disclose that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I do believe Great Revivalist has, I don't know if it's THC or what is legal. We both have jobs where it's not worth it to even kind of delve into that area.
It would be frowned upon for sure.
But yeah, when it's totally legal, maybe someday I'll try stuff like that. But until then, we'll go with the red ale. Skol.
Good pour, by the way.
Yeah, man. No, you're joking. You're making fun of me.
No, that's actually
this is a
really
great
good.
pour.
Mine pales in comparison to yours.
Let's try the beer.
Oh yeah, that's right up my alley.
That's a red ale.
It's
I
good.
mean, it's kind of got like a lighter, almost like, I don't know, fruity, like
there's
more refreshing.
There's some fruit on the back, like the aftertaste. I can feel like maybe some apple or
something like that. Yeah,
something like that. Something crisp.
Usually, you wouldn't say a red ale is like refreshing. You know what I mean? Like perking. Like red ales usually have like a lot of earthy flavors, and they're really good darker tasting beers. This is a really good darker tasting beer, but it does have that like that nice lightness in the back end. It's really good.
It's got a lot of like caramel notes too. Like it kind of reminds me of like a caramel apple, not like the caramel apple Fandango that we tried from Toppling Goliath. That was like the like caramel apple sucker that you get at Halloween time. It's not like that intense of a flavor, but it's just like it's mellow. It's very chill and relaxed, and this is what I like in a beer. Like if I'm gonna go to the store and I'm gonna look for something, I want something that doesn't pretend to be a beer. I want something that just is a beer, and it's just really good. And this hits the spot.
Yeah, so. I think the can says it's 5.4%. I don't know, man. This is a home run to me. This is really good.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying this. Thank you for bringing it. Thank you, Great Revivalist, for brewing it.
And Great Revivalist is close enough that we need to get up there.
I was just saying that we should make it a point to get up to Clinton. It's just less than an hour. About 45-ish minutes from us.
I think.
But yeah, I think we talked about it with Forrest last week, that Great Revivalist, their brewery is amazing. It's really cool to look at and be in. And on top of that, their beers are just fantastic. So yeah, we should definitely try to get up there.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into some Vikings talkers here.
We do that. We can talk about the Vikings.
We really haven't a whole lot the last couple of weeks. We've been really focused on the beer brewing. So if you've been around for the last 3 episodes, episode 79, episode 80, and episode 81, we had good friend of the show, Forrest, on for all 3 of those. We did a pre-brew episode. We did a brew day episode, and then we did a post-brew episode last week, and we interspersed some football talk kind of in there. But a lot of what we talked about, I think, was beer and the brewing process, what we were using, how the beer was coming along. Do you have any updates? Because it's been sitting in your basement for a couple weeks now.
Yeah, so update is it's just about done fermenting. Haven't seen too much action from the airlock on top of the fermenter. And I think everything is ready for us to move it from the fermenting jug, the fermenter, into the keg. And then once it's in the keg, I think it has to... This is where I'm going to not know exactly timeline of what everything needs. We need friend of the show Forrest for that. But I believe once it's in the keg, then we introduce the CO2 to it, which is what will actually carbonate it. And it has to be in that environment for a certain amount of time. I don't remember if it's like a couple of days at minimum or a week or 2 at minimum. Forrest would definitely know more about that than I would. But yeah, I believe tomorrow, within 24 hours, we'll be moving it from the fermenter to the keg. So I'm pretty excited.
Sweet.
Which means sometime in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Probably, what is today? Episode 82?
82.
Probably before or around episode 85-ish, we should be ready to have friend of the show Forrest back on the show and trying, at least on the podcast, our first taste of the nut brown ale that is yet to be named.
Yet to be named. So we do have a segment on the beer. Maybe we can just bump that up to the top quick. And then we can talk football, even though we said we would talk football. We still need a name. So if you have any ideas for a Vikings themed nut brown ale out there, hit us up with a comment. Let us know what you would name a beer in that style.
There were a couple of lines in those 2 AI generated songs that I sent you today that got the gears turning.
Ooh.
They said something, and of course I don't know if we'll ever release those songs at all. They're not great, but some of the lines were like, oh, there's something there that could lead us to a good beer name. So there's something out there. I'm not above using AI or comments or suggestions to find a good name. I think we haven't. It's like naming a child. You know their name when you hear it. And maybe, I was going to say, maybe we have to try it before we name it, but that's a big no-no too. So maybe we just have to see it, and then we won't be able to physically drink it until we name it. So I don't know. It's tough. Shouldn't be this hard to name a beer, but it is.
Well, we would appreciate any help out there from fellow wordsmiths. Help us figure this out. And yeah, we need a name. Mm-hmm. We've already talked about fermentation timeline and kegging date a little bit. First episode to taste it, I'm almost wondering, I don't want to rush the process, but I'm almost wondering if we do it on episode 84. Randy Moss.
Oh, that would be a good one.
That'd be a good one.
Oh, we could call it the Goat Brown Ale.
Ooh.
Please, I just shout it out there.
Can we put a picture of Randy Moss doing the full moon over Green Bay? Can we do that?
We could. Have you seen the guy? This is kind of a tangent. The guy that I feel like I just brought him up on the podcast last week, maybe even 2. He's on social media. He does the wood art.
Oh yeah.
I think his Cover Your Ears Young Ones, his actual company name is That's Badass Wood Art.
Yeah. I've seen him.
Yeah, he does a lot of Viking stuff. I think he does everything. I have a piece of his that just says Skol, and it's the wood art. But he's got a really cool version of that wood art of Randy mooning the crowd. I think it's called Disgusting Act,
because that's what Joe Buck said.
Yeah,
that's disgusting. That's a disgusting act.
Have you heard Joe Buck talk about that in recent years?
He's kind of taken that back, and he's like, it really wasn't actually that bad.
Yeah, I think he said some version of the idea that he wishes he would never have said that. Although I love it. For a while, it was like, I hate Joe Buck. He's the worst. But honestly, I don't mind Joe Buck at all, and I love that he said that. In 2025 now, I love that he said that back then. But
yeah,
I've thought about reaching out to that wood art guy, seeing if he'll do a custom Skol hop piece. But I've never reached out, and we have a budget, but it's a growing budget so far. So thanks, Big Top Ventures. Maybe someday that'd be a cool set piece.
That would be.
Yeah,
but maybe we might be onto something with a Randy Moss themed beer. I like that.
We'll need to talk to Forrest and make sure that the beer is ready to go. I'm not against having episode 84 be a nice homage. We haven't really done that for any other player. We kind of did that for episode 40, Jimmy Kleinsasser, but that was just like a happy accident. And we were like, oh yeah, this guy, it's a Kleinsasser episode. He deserves it, but yeah.
Maybe we could play off of straight cash, homie.
Yeah, I don't... It actually causes me anguish a little bit trying to figure out the perfect name for this beer.
Or I was born ready. I came out of the womb ready. We got to find something. There's plenty of Randy Moss one-liners. Or there's the one where he and Dante Culpepper are on the sideline and Randy's like, what's that we always call when we're playing the PlayStation? What's that we always call? Tails never fails.
Oh yeah, and I don't remember who said it. I think Randy's like, did you say tails?
No, I said heads. You gotta go with tails. Tails never fail.
Which is true. I always go tails. Do you do heads at all?
No, tails never fails. Yeah, that's my MO for sure. Maybe that's the name of the beer.
Tails never fails.
Ooh,
that's so bad.
Tails Never Fails, Fales.
Yeah.
And an emphasis on
maybe
ale.
I think we're getting closer.
Wow.
Or maybe we're both locking into really bad ideas and we need Forrest here to be like, guys, come on. But I think, oh man.
Forrest will listen to this and then he can give us some feedback on it. We'll send it to him.
Yeah, we'll make sure. We'll get one more listen this week.
I'm really vibing on Randy Moss, though. I think
there's something there.
A Randy Moss themed beer that we try on episode 84, that could be really cool.
Yeah. Almost something like we had planned it out and not just came up with it on a whim on episode 82, the Kyle Rudolph episode.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that.
Yeah, so that's kind of where the beer's sitting. It's coming along. Hopefully it'll taste good. We'll be honest, too. I think if it's awful, we'll say, man, we got 4 gallons of nut ale. But I'm really holding out hope. Forrest, everything he said and has seen makes me believe this will be a good one.
Well, and everything we tried on Brew Day tasted really good. It reminded me of what we tried on Brew Day last year when we brewed a beer. It was all really good. You've said this many times. You've never had a beer that Forrest has brewed that was bad.
Yeah. I think the worst of his beers that I've ever had were just like fine. Yeah. Like that's, they're not gross. They're just fine. And that's only been 1 or 2.
I think just a general statement here. We're pretty easy to please as beer fans. Like we're not picky. We will drink pretty much anything. And we've even I think both of us since starting this show, we've expanded our beer taste palette.
Absolutely, 1,000%.
Sours were not really my favorite, and we've tried plenty of sours now in the past 82 episodes, and I've enjoyed every single one we've tried. Even the crushberry sour. Did we have that on an episode?
I'm pretty sure you had it officially. I tried as a part of episode 50.
I tried it at Lionbridge, but I think did we bring it?
I don't know if we haven't
had it. No, we haven't had it here. But we did have it at Lionbridge, and it was so good. Yeah. It tasted like Captain Crunch or the Berry Crunch or whatever.
Yeah. And I think that's what they were going for, and they hit the nail on the head. Yeah. We've had so many good beers. I think maybe it's just hyperbole. I don't know. The state of Iowa has a ton of great breweries and just some really good beers.
Yes.
I'm trying to rack my brain. If we had ever had a nasty beer on the show, we would say that, right? I feel like I would have no problem saying, hey, this beer by this brewery, I don't know if it's a bad batch or what, but this is not great. We would say, we wouldn't be like, you're the worst ever and just close up your brewery, but we would say this isn't a great beer. But we've never said that. I've never bit my tongue on saying something like that, and we've only ever been like, yeah, at least this is fine. If you like this kind of beer, then it's fine. That's the worst thing we've ever really said about beer. So
yeah,
maybe Iowa just is the beer capital state of the world.
I don't know, but if you don't live in Iowa and you like craft beer, you got to come here sometime. Yeah. We've got some really good stuff. Even if you just drive through on I-80 and you go straight through from west to east, you go Omaha to Davenport, you can stop probably in 10 different places.
We did it.
We can confirm. And they're all very accessible and just super good. And a lot of them serve really good food too. So yeah, come to Iowa. We've got really good beer here.
Absolutely.
The least of which is not to mention Great Revivalist.
Oh yeah, this beer is super good.
This is hitting the spot tonight.
Absolutely.
It's really good.
All right. You know what else is good? The Vikings prospects in free agency coming up.
Yeah. So free agency 8 days away.
I think slightly less now, but yep.
Well, it begins 4:00 March 12th, and by my count, today's March 3rd. So by the time people are listening to us, it'll be 8 days, give or take.
And that's also not taking into account the legal tampering period that starts, I think, 1 week from this moment right now. March 10th, I believe, is when that starts. It's 48 hours or 72 or whatever, however long, of legal tampering. And that's when you're going to start hearing the reports of where Sam Darnold's going to sign, if players like Kirk Cousins are getting released and stuff like that. We're already kind of seeing some movement here. Deebo Samuel got traded. Darius Slay got released today. There's some movement pre-free agency, but it's really going to ramp up. So this week that we're living in right now is going to be the week of intense speculation, rumors flying everywhere. What could they do? What should they do? What will they do for every team? And I'm excited. This is a fun time.
And Dustin alluded to this the last time he was on our show. Dustin Baker of Vikings territory. He said, "You guys just wait. We're coming up on some of the best content for Vikings fans. Like these are good times. Maybe more so than the regular season, which is when we're all, caught up in game to game, what happened previously, what's coming up." So I'm excited for it as well. It's always a fun time. It seems like pretty much from now until April, until the draft, really, we get a lot of stuff to talk about. So speaking of Dustin Baker, though, he put out a really good article that I found today, and it's called 8 Things to Know 8 days before free agency. So here's what I want to do with this.
And just real quick, you can find that article on vikingsterritory.com.
Yep. And we'll link both of the articles. We're going to reference another one here in a little bit, but we'll link both of these articles, both penned by Dustin Baker. We'll have those linked in the description below. We would strongly recommend bookmarking Vikings Territory. We're there daily, probably.
Oh, absolutely. It's my go-to website to log into, let alone NFL news.
Yep. So really good stuff there. But with this article, 8 Things to Know 8 days before free agency, I want to list the 8 headers that he gave. I just want to list those outright. And then I want you to pick the one that you're most keyed in on right now. Like what's the one that you're going to be watching the most? Because you just mentioned there's going to be a lot of stuff happening, a lot of rumors flying. We're going to be here for it all.
Yeah.
Which one of these 8 items are you going to be kind of keyed in on in the next week or two? So the first one is Vikings have optionality. I think that just means we have options.
I think it's specifically referencing a quote from Kwesi Adefo-Mensah talking about the quarterback position.
Sure. Yeah. So that's the first one. Minnesota wants Aaron Jones back.
Fair.
There's a new running back incoming from somewhere. Maybe a competing thought a little bit, but not too much.
I think those are both
complementary. Yeah. A defensive tackle is on the way. O'Connell walked back the interior offensive line talk, which I think he talked up a little bit a few weeks ago in a press conference. Defensive secondary could look a lot different. Most cap space in years, and Sam Darnold is probably gone.
Yeah. So I have 4 of these points that I'm going to point out, but it's really going to turn into 2 points. I think I kind of said this last week too. I've been saying it for a few weeks. Can we, as the Skol Hop, kind of put the whole Sam Darnold speculation to bed?
Yeah. I think we're on the same page there. And I think even today, I think it came out, I think several big NFL guys, I think Schefter tweeted something, and I think maybe Ian Rappaport maybe said something too. I could be wrong on that, but it sounds like the Vikings will not tag Darnold. And the tag deadline is like, what, this week? In the next couple of days?
I mean, Tuesday. So
tomorrow.
Probably by the time most people have listened to this, the deadline will have passed. It's 4 p.m. Eastern on March 4th. And actually, funnily enough, Adam Schefter, as of right now, tweeted 20 minutes ago, which is the evening of the 3rd of March, saying Vikings QB Sam Darnold is unlikely to be franchise tag ahead of the deadline, per sources. And then he says Minnesota is still interested in working to re-sign Darnold, but it is likely to be without any tag. I don't believe that second part at all. I think the Vikings are going to be content thanking Sam Darnold for the year, celebrating 2024 with him, and congratulating him on the big deal that he's going to sign with another team next year. And I don't think there should be any bad blood about that, because nobody's getting hurt by it. The Vikings have JJ. They have the plan already set almost a year ago in drafting JJ. That's going to work out. That's the route they're going to go. It's obvious. So when I said I was going to talk about 4 of the points, so this whole Sam Darnold thing is obviously the Vikings have optionality, which I think is just Kwesi and Kevin O'Connell kind of leaving the door open. These coaches and GMs, they never really speak in absolutes. They always leave the door open publicly for anything to happen. But
until they've made their decision and it's finalized.
But I think the decision's been made.
Yeah.
It's JJ and somebody else at backup. Sam Darnold will successfully lead another team next year. And with that, the other point is Sam Darnold is probably gone, which I think it amazes me that it's even a talker. To say, what do the Vikings do at quarterback is almost the same as saying, what do the Chiefs do at quarterback? I'm not saying J.J. McCarthy is Mahomes level. I'm just saying the plan is there. It is yet. The Vikings have already started this path of drafting a quarterback, highest they've ever drafted before. And yes, it worked. It was successful with the bridge quarterback that they got. And also the last 2 games of the season for Sam Darnold make it all the more easy to be like, thank you, goodbye. Mm-hmm. It'd be different if Darnold had single-handedly led the team deep in the playoffs to the big game, to the Super Bowl, to a Super Bowl win. That'd be different. But I don't know. I think everybody should, and obvious, it should be ready to be like, all right, come on, JJ.
Yep. Thanks for your service. Mm-hmm. You did great. We had a fun season. You crumbled in the moments that mattered the most, and we wish you well.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, too. I am a personal fan of Sam Darnold, and I will be forever. He seems like a good stand-up dude.
Yep.
He gave us Vikings fans an incredible Favre-like year, if only for the regular season. It was a lot of fun. I'm grateful for the work that Sam Darnold did for the Vikings, all the good he brought. And I'm not saying maliciously, congratulations on your next team. It's just the writing's on the wall, and I'm here for the J.J. McCarthy plan. And I don't think you have to hate Sam Darnold to be ready for J.J. McCarthy.
One of the rumors I've heard is that Pete Carroll really wants him in Vegas. Mm-hmm. And I've heard Tom Brady, partial owner of the Raiders, has already, I think, kind of extended the invite to Sam, like, hey man, come out, I'll take you out to dinner, and we'll chat and we'll see if this is a good fit or not. So I don't think Sam will have a shortage of places to go. I've said this multiple times. The NFL has a supply and demand problem when it comes to quarterbacks. The demand is higher than the supply. There will always be a high need for quarterbacks in a quarterback needy league where everybody wants the best possible guy they can have at that position. Yeah. And Sam played well enough this last season to earn that role somewhere else, whether that's Vegas or who knows where else. I think there's a handful of other teams that are floating around out there. The Browns, the Titans, going back to New York, but with the Giants. I don't know that any of those are like super realistic, but I don't know. I guess time will tell, and I agree with you. And the other thing to add to your point on that, with the optionality thing is, the Vikings have no shortage of quarterbacks. Yeah. Right now, before anything changes, before the apple cart is upset in free agency, the Vikings have Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, J.J. McCarthy, Nick Mullins, Brett Ripien. There's no shortage of quarterbacks, and obviously only one guy can be the number one and can be the starter, and I think we're all in agreement that that's going to be J.J. I don't know. If you're a Vikings fan out there that doesn't think that, you're probably a little delusional at this point. There's
probably a good subset. I haven't really heard from them, but there's probably a portion of fans that are devastated that JJ is the option.
And we've already mentioned Sam's probably gone. That leaves you with JJ as your QB1, and then you have options, right? You could get rid of the other guys and say bye-bye to Ripien and Mullins and say, Daniel Jones, you're here, you're the backup, and let's see if we can get you back on 2 feet and either work you into a role here or Probably not. More likely work you into a role somewhere else where you can be the Sam Darnold of 2026 and you can go take over a starting job again, and you get some time with the QB whisperer and Kevin O'Connell, that sort of thing. But if that's not an option and Daniel Jones is like, no, let me spread my wings and fly, I want to test the market. Okay, cool. I'd say keep Nick Mullins because he's proven he's a really good backup. And I don't know, maybe keep Brett Ripien on the practice squad as your emergency QB3 and let's just roll like we've rolled for the last couple of years, only with a rookie quarterback. I mean, he's not going to be a rookie next year, but he's going to function like that. So,
and I think we should touch on this too. I think a lot of the people that are saying the Vikings should franchise tag Sam Darnold is with the idea that they tag him and then trade him to get value out of an asset that they helped develop, which I totally understand that mindset too. That's a lot of risk.
It's high risk, high reward
for a non-guarantee. And what does Sam Darnold even get you? Maybe a second round pick. Maybe.
Well, Debo just got traded for a fifth rounder.
Yeah.
Like,
he's also pretty expensive too.
That seemed pretty low for me, for a player of his caliber to go for a fifth round pick only.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think there was any cash involved. I think it was just a fifth rounder.
Yeah, and I think the Commanders pretty much are on the hook too for his contract too. So, and that's a little different. Darnold does play the most important position in sports, and has a recent, short history, but a recent history of playing well in that position, except when the lights are the brightest, which I think really scares a lot of people off. But I think it's too much of a risk. It's a $40 million risk, which totally hampers the rest of your free agency. It could be a decision, or a career ruining decision for Kwesi Adofo-Mensah to do that. It'd be great. And if you were guaranteed even a third, I'd be all for it. But
the Vikings are draft needy too.
Yeah, this year.
Lack picks.
There's also the idea that Darnold will factor into comp picks next year, which neither of us are smart enough to know or be able to plan for how that works, because there's a whole formula and it's what other guys sign for and what you sign other guys for. I don't know. But ultimately, I think QB position will work out for the Vikings, and it will be JJ at the helm.
I definitely agree.
Yeah. So the other point that I wanted to bring up about Dustin Baker's article, 8 Things to Know, 8 days before free agency, centers around the running back position. The 2 points are Minnesota wants Aaron Jones back and new running back incoming from somewhere. I was pretty adamant last year when they signed Aaron Jones that I wasn't really thinking he'd give much. I wasn't mad that they signed him. He wasn't super duper expensive, but pretty pricey for a 1 year. I think $7 up to $10 million for this past season. And it sounds like the Vikings would want Aaron Jones back for pretty much that price or a little bit less, which if he can get more somewhere else, good for him. I'm an advocate for players getting every dime they can. But
you're also an advocate of not paying running backs.
Yeah, that's true. Although in this year, when the Vikings have a ton of cap space, if they spent 7 to 10 on Aaron Jones again, I'd be all for that. Dustin makes another point too, that it sounds like if they do bring Aaron Jones back, and it is a good price for the Vikings, that the idea is that his workload would be less, which is where I think the second point of that comes in, the new running back incoming. I'm not a draft expert. Our friend of the show, Forrest, he's probably the closest to a draft expert that we've got, unless maybe Dustin Baker, too. He's probably pretty smart on all that. But it sounds like this upcoming 2025 draft is the year of the running back. Like, there's going to be starter-worthy running backs, second, third, fourth round, stuff like that. If that's the case, try to sign Aaron Jones back at a price that works. If not, oh well, they'll figure it out. But even if you do sign Aaron Jones, draft one of the up-and-coming running backs, whether it's I think Genty will be gone by the time the Vikings pick, or if there's a logjam and you can maybe trade back and still get a good running back. I think Caleb Johnson from Iowa kind of hurt his stock a little bit with a 4.58 or something 40 time. Yeah, at the combine. But that's still pretty fast. And his style, like he's proven on the field he can play too. So,
and he played, to be fair, as from Iowa, we watch a lot of Iowa football, even though I'm not the biggest Hawkeye fan. You probably watch more Hawkeye football than I do. He played in a very run heavy scheme, and so he was relied upon a lot, and I don't think
was successful.
Yeah, and we didn't see the big gash plays. You saw him every once in a while, but he was just more, I think, in his college career, that steady 3, 4, 5 yard guy that, like, you give him the ball, he's gonna move the ball forward. He's not gonna, get stopped for 0 yards or a loss of 2 or whatever.
I just feel like the KOC era of running backs has been kind of crappy.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones being a shining point of that. I think he had a career high in rushing yards and everything with the Vikings. Although I also think KOC pointed out Aaron Jones has been a running back by committee member his entire career. And this year with the Vikings was the first time he was like the guy. RB1. And he held up. I figured Aaron Jones would have a couple 100-yard games, do some good, and then get injured and be out for a significant part of the season. And that just wasn't the case. He was just good.
Yeah, and he wasn't without injury. I mean, there were games where there was one game I remember specifically where he didn't come out after halftime, probably getting an IV or something.
I think he had kind of a lingering hamstring or something like that throughout the second part of the season too. Yeah, and
I think there was that and maybe some other just little kind of things that were bugging him here and there. Nothing major, nothing to keep him out, nothing to cause him to lose time. But yeah, he was definitely he was very resilient this year, and that was also a good sign too, because in years past we've been used to Dalvin Cook, who's notorious for missing time. Not that he was a bad back at all; he was really good, very dynamic. But
until he wasn't, that just happens to running back.
He missed a lot of time too, even when he was good for the Vikings. I mean, you could count on Dalvin Cook missing 3 or 4 games a year due to injury, just because his shoulder was always bothering him, and then I think he had some other lower body thing that bugged him too at some point. I can't remember, but yeah, I'm definitely interested to see how.
Well, Dalvin, remember his rookie year, he tore his ACL too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Anyways, I'm very interested to see how running backs shape up for the Vikings, because Aaron Jones is like the consummate team guy.
Yeah, he seems like a great locker room guy.
Just seems like, and he seems like he wants to be in Minnesota. He made that clear pretty much all season, and at the end of the season too. Like, I want to be here. If they want me back, I'm here for it. I'll sign a contract. And I think he would maybe even be willing to take the same, or maybe not much more than what he made last year to stay in Minnesota. He seems like that kind of guy that's like, yeah, this is home for me, probably maybe till the end of my career. I don't know.
But with that being said, too, if another team even offers $1 million more than the Vikings will, good for him for getting every dime.
Yeah.
I think that's just like with Darnold. We will say, congrats, Aaron Jones. Thank you for 2024. It was great. Good luck moving forward, except when you play against the Vikings. That's another one. No malice, no hatred or bad feelings if he takes a little bit more money with another team, because he has played it so well on the field, off the field, being just a stand-up guy for the better part of a year now. So
I think the Vikings have options at that point, or at that position too, whether it's in the draft or in free agency. Yes, there's a huge draft class coming in with some really good backs. I was even looking down this list that I found. Like, I almost forgot about Cam Scadaboo.
Oh, the Arizona State guy, or just Arizona.
Yeah, Arizona State. And there's some other ones too. Judkins from Ohio State was pretty good. So there's no shortage of running backs in this draft, and I could see the Vikings going the draft route for a running back, maybe in what picks they have, like a 3rd and a 4th rounder maybe. Well,
they've got, I think with comp picks, I think total they're supposed to have 4. A 1st, a 3rd, and I think 2 5ths. I might be
first
wrong
and the
on
third
that.
and 2/5. I could see in the third or the 2/5 if those are the picks.
And that's a whole nother talker is the draft. I think that they'd be prime spots to trade down out of the first round and get 1 or 2 picks added. I think what you just pulled up doesn't account for the third round comp pick.
Compensatory pick from Kirk, right?
Yeah, that's what they'll get.
Yeah.
I think they've already kind of announced even the order for that. Those comp picks, they're at the end of the round too. So that's a very, almost a 4th round pick when they add those comp picks. But it's still nice. I like that the NFL does that for teams that work the system a little bit as far as free agency goes. Yeah, I'm excited for the whole draft thing, and again, that's a whole nother episode that we'll probably multiple that we'll have here in the next few weeks.
So I'm gonna zero in on one that we didn't talk about yet.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you.
You picked 4 of the 8, which is great. I mean, they were strongly related, and I think also just strongly tied to the needs that the Vikings will have this year, and some of the biggest talkers that we'll be talking about from now until August, really. But one that I think has kind of popped up in the news a little bit is the defensive secondary.
Yeah,
and like there's been some rumors like Byron Murphy wants a big payday. He might be on his way out. Even Cam Bynum has played himself into probably a pretty decent contract. I don't know what's going to happen with all that. I'm not going to pretend to have this crystal ball that can look into the future, but
you didn't even mention Harrison Smith. Who, at this moment, we don't know if he's
coming back or not. Well, and then you've got now I'm blanking on the name, Stephon Gilmore.
Oh yeah,
thing too. Like, will he retire? Like, you've got those 2 old guys that are basically our age, maybe slightly older than us, but yeah, they're getting up there in terms of football age, and they're on the fence about coming back or not. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but something that came out of the combine, and we're kind of blending topics here because kind of the next article has to do with the combine, but this isn't part of Dustin's article on the combine that we'll talk about, which is why I want to talk about it now quickly. A fellow graduate of our high school performed super well at the NFL combine this last week. Darian Porter out of Bettendorf High School in Bettendorf, Iowa. He turned some heads, and he had the stopwatches going, especially on the 40. He ran a 4.3.
Yeah.
A 4.30.
Yeah.
A 4.30 40 yard dash, which is really impressive. He was fast in high school. I can attest to that. I never worked with him as a coach, but I am a track coach, and I know that he holds the state record in the 400 in Iowa at 46.99.
Yeah.
A record I don't know that will ever be broken.
Probably not in Iowa, at least.
Well, it's a state record. So I know there are faster times in other states around the country, but in Iowa, I have a hard time believing that will get beaten anytime soon anyways. But in addition to being just really naturally fast, I think he's just generally athletic. And I think from what I've heard out of Iowa State, where he's coming from, he's a hard worker. He's a good kid, and he's coachable. And I think he could be a really good fit in the Viking secondary.
Let's give him to Brian Flores.
Yeah, that's what I think. I said this before we started recording. I don't know that Brian Flores' defensive scheme would be familiar to him. I think it's not
familiar to anybody.
I think it might be the moon to him for a while, but eventually, with time, he would adapt and figure it out. Again, I don't have a crystal ball. I kind of just selfishly want that to happen because it'd be really cool to be like, oh yeah, we went to high school, or we went to the same high school that guy did. We weren't there at the same time he did because we're quite much older.
He is a 6-year senior. I just pulled that up.
Yeah, he is a little bit older for a player entering the draft. I think he benefited from the COVID year and stuff. So.
Yeah, that'd be really fun. That'd be cool. I think I told you before we started recording, that's a jersey I would buy. Heck yeah. It got the local connection. Our area only has a handful of NFL players or alums. That'd be a fun episode actually to talk about, like, who are the local guys in our area. We probably mentioned them all at one point, but yeah, that'd be really cool. It sounds like he's in the draftable conversations at the moment. I'm seeing 4, 5, 6 round for him, which that's kind of hard. Every once in a while you'll see guys tagged with, that range, and then they'll go undrafted, or they'll be like a Red Ellison and go in like the second round. I'm not saying Darian Porter's going to be in the second round, but yeah, you never know. I think another Bettendorf alum, Pat Enger, he was a second round pick, and I don't know what his pre-draft talker was, if he was talked about as a 3rd, 4th, 5th round pick, but I know he was drafted higher than he thought he would be. That'd be super cool. Just reading up on him, sounds like just his role at Iowa State, he had a lot of opportunity to play special teams. Didn't start at a cornerback role until this previous season. But sounds like he's a well-versed special teams player, which I don't know if you can flash there. And then you're always going to perk someone's ears when you run a 4.3 40. Like that's fast.
That's very
this
fast.
Just in, that's super fast.
Yeah.
I think, what's the record? Like a 4.19 or something like that?
I thought it was 4.2 something. I could be wrong. Let's look quick.
Well,
NFL Combine.
A fellow Northern Iowa Panther at one point, I think he ran an unofficial like 4.19 at the University of Minnesota pro day back in the day. Did I even say his name? Trent Sherfield. That's who ran that. But yeah, I don't know what the record is. John Ross, is that who it is?
John Ross, 4.22.
Got it.
So I knew it was in the 4.2 range. 4.1 would be unreal.
Yeah.
But John Ross, out of Washington.
I think it was Ross. There was a year that I think Adidas was offering like a private island to anyone that like broke the 40 record, and I think there was a little bit of controversy because John Ross like did break it but like tied it or something like that. So I might be mixing up stories there, but there's something to John Ross potentially getting an island from Adidas because of his 40 time.
So this list that I'm looking at comes from NFL.com, and it's the top 11 40 times.
Interesting.
And the 11th fastest time was Fabian Washington, cornerback out of Nebraska, with a 4.29, and
Jeez.
Darian Porter ran a 4.30.
Yeah.
So that squarely puts him in the top 15 probably all time.
Yeah.
Easily top 20.
And there's probably more than a handful that have run a 4.30. Like he's probably tied somewhere, but
again, as a track coach and knowing the systems that they use to time those things are pretty darn accurate. And I would believe an older time like Fabian Washington, I don't remember how long ago that was, but it was a while ago now. And there's another one here, Tyrone Calico. Out of Middle Tennessee. I think he maybe played a while ago too. Maybe there were some discrepancies in the timing back then, but nowadays to have a laser timing system is just kind of like, well, yeah, you're going to host a track meet, you're going to have that. And they're very reliable. They're very efficient too. Like you can run a race, start the timer, and you can look on the computer and you can see pretty quickly who won, and you can see what their times were. So
nice.
I have a lot of faith in those systems. So to get a 4.3 out of Darian Porter at the draft, I believe that, and he's got the high school times to back that up.
Yeah, future Viking Darian Porter. Let's go. Talking about the draft, we do have one more article by Dustin Baker on VikingsTerritory.com that you brought up. It's called Things Learned About the Vikings at the NFL Combine, which we know the Combine is as much about these upcoming rookies, getting the information on them, the numbers, the measurements, everything. It's as much about that as it is about the league coming together and having the like unofficial free agency. And we've seen some news come out during this time, like Matt Stafford apparently got enough information around the league to know, like, okay, I'm going back to the Rams, and they did a deal for, I don't even know if the numbers are out on Stafford's deal yet, to come back for 2020, well, this year, 2025. You see things like Darius Slay from the Eagles get released, probably due to some information that was talked about at the combine. You see Deebo Samuel. I feel like he's been a story for the better part of a year now. Like, I want out, or I need a better contract. And we finally see that shoe dropped where Deebo Samuel, he's traded to the Commanders. And I think we talked about that earlier for a 5th round pick. So yeah, this combine, there's some conversations over brews, and there's some unofficial deals that are made there too. So this article kind of talks about some of the news points that have come out, some of the rumors that have come out. Evan, you did it for me on the last article. Can you think of any specific of these topics that kind of pique your interest?
Well, I'm going to come back to what you talked about on the previous Dustin Baker article. Ashton Jeanty is somewhere on the radar.
Yeah.
He's somewhere in the orbit of the Minnesota Vikings right now. And I think that's a good thing, to have the top running back in the draft class, at least in the conversation. Will it happen? I don't know. Again, no crystal ball. We can't sit here and say this is absolutely what the Vikings will do. I refuse to do that. Because then we end up being wrong.
Yeah, which is fine. Sometimes it's okay to be wrong.
It's okay to be wrong. But I'm just encouraged that it seems like, from the people that know best, from the people that were maybe there in those conversations over a pint or whatever, Ashton Jeanty is in that conversation. Whether or not he becomes a Viking, that's a whole other thing. But the Vikings need to address the running back position. You said it earlier, Aaron Jones has been a running back by committee guy. He shouldered a heavy portion of the load this last season, and it was pretty clear there was no other guy.
Yeah, I mean...
It just, it did not go well. So if it wasn't Aaron Jones, the ball didn't move, And so... obviously, a guy like Aaron Jones, especially at his age, can't be out there every single down. He's not that durable.
Yep.
And you need to save a guy like that for certain situations in the game, maybe some third down situations, maybe some key blocking situations where he can lock in on a linebacker or somebody that's coming in on a blitz. He needs help. He needs somebody else. And I think he will thrive again when he has that yin to the yang, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Somebody that can come in and, be that thing that he lacks. So I'm excited about that, and I'm hopeful, whether it's Ashton Jeanty or not, I'm hopeful that the Vikings, either in free agency or the draft, pick up a running back.
Yeah. So specifically in this article, Dustin kind of points out that he points out the Vikings did talk to officially have a meeting with Jeanty, but it's probably more of a due diligence thing. He says he probably won't fall to 24, but he's kind of opening the door for if he falls to somewhere like 15, 16, 17, alluding that the Vikings might trade up. I highly doubt the Vikings would trade up unless some other team that's higher than them is in a bind and they need help. The Vikings don't have enough draft capital this year to trade up. They need to be trading down. But it is probably smart to get an idea of, even if it's to say Jeanty was touted as the best, but we like this other guy better because of these reasons after talking to both of them. It's smart to do the due diligence. So, yeah.
And speaking of due diligence, the Vikings also held an official meeting with Cam Ward, the highest ranked quarterback in the draft class.
Yeah.
I think most teams are going to try to meet with these top ranked prospects regardless of position, because we can.
Yeah.
It's free. We might as well see, okay, yeah, let's sit down with Cam Ward. Who knows? Maybe there's something in there. Maybe just in the conversation we can uncover something. We've said for a long time, JJ's the guy, Sam's gone. That's probably what's going to happen. We're not going to sit here and debate that any longer. Cam Ward will probably not be a Viking.
Yeah, I'd be questioning if that were the case.
But they will leave no stone unturned, and that's just part of the process.
And
I think
a part of this too is they may be, they're scouts. They need to have information on all players pretty much, whether it's incoming rookies or 8th year veterans. And I mean, maybe it's just easy to get in a good conversation, a good interview with a guy right now when you never know. Maybe 7 years from now, you need a running back, and for whatever reason, Janty's available, and you have, you know, a sheet of paper with notes on what he was like 7 years ago when you talked to him. It's a piece of information that's not bad to have. Just like, you know, Cam Ward, maybe sometime he becomes available, or, you know, Kirk Cousins tears his ACL randomly and you need to look at available running or available quarterbacks, and you have a conversation that you had with Cam Ward 3 years ago and he's tradable for. You know, I just think it's a good practice to be able to talk to and get a little bit of idea personally from as many of these players as you can.
Well, I think, like, if you're a coach or a GM, you get on the player's radar too, and then, like, you get into that desperate situation. I think I'm just reiterating what you said, but it's just like, oh no, I had a conversation with that kid before the draft 2 years ago. Now we're in a bind, and I know he's not playing much over here. Let me give him a call. Let me see what happens. And you've already got that connection, and then you can work that connection, and who knows, maybe you can make something happen.
Well, and it can go every which way too. You could know, like, holy cow, this player that's supposed to be, you know, a top 5 pick is, you know, not going to be available, but, you know, 5 years from now, he's available, and, you know, like, geez, I did not like that conversation we had with him. He was an idiot, whatever player it was. You know, like, it's just good practice to get, like I said a minute ago, all the information you can about every available player, because maybe that was something that came up when Josh Dobbs was available. Somebody had a conversation with him in the pre-draft process years ago, or somewhere that he worked with him, and maybe it was KOC himself that said, like, we need to look at this guy. You just never know. It's what do they say all the time about any employment? It's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And that goes both ways, from the employee, the player, or the employer, the GM, or anything like that. So probably smart either way to talk to everybody.
What about you? What are you most interested in, or what do you kind of key in on here with Dustin's 5 lessons learned, things learned from the Vikings at the Combine?
Yeah, so I'm kind of concerned about one thing. It's the middle point. I don't know, did we go down all 5 points? I don't know if we have to, but this point that I'm kind of concerned about is, it's titled Inside Offensive Line Replacements ... not guaranteed. This is coming from, I don't know if KOC was on a radio show or on KFAN or something, and he had a quote at the Combine talking about how he kind of wanted to reel back from replacing inside offensive linemen. We're talking Blake Brandel, Garrett Bradbury, and, well, Dalton Reisner / and that's kind of concerning that he's leaving the door open, like, we don't need to replace anybody. Or he's probably also looking at the backups from 24 too, the other guys that, I think there's a couple rookies that were on the offensive line, stuff like that too. But I think
Walter Rouse was one of them, right?
Yeah, I think he's a tackle, but he said he could slide in inside.
Feeney was
and
there,
Dan Feeney,
he's probably gone.
I've never said a nice thing about him, which is funny because I've never met him. Maybe he's a good dude. But yeah, I don't think he played any snaps. Maybe like 10 on special teams. Anyways, it's kind of concerning to hear that they aren't fully saying, you know, we're going to kind of overhaul that area, because that was such a concerning area. I think the inside offensive line directly contributed to Sam Darnold's collapse in the last 2 games of the season. They definitely helped Sam Darnold look crazier than he had all year, in a bad way. And I say it's concerning because there's another position on the inside defensive line that Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah specifically said, like, yeah, we need to switch things up. We need to focus on that and put some resources towards that and build it up. So to have KOC kind of say the opposite and say, we don't necessarily need to replace everybody, or we don't need to do any overhauls in that position, that's kind of scary to me, and I hope it's smokescreen. Maybe they're just protecting themselves from getting fleeced by either a free agent or another team in a trade deal. I don't know, but I definitely hope there's at least one new starter, either in the draft or free agency, in those 3 spots. And I don't even care who it is, because anything is better than not changing anything at all. So,
yeah, I agree with you. A change needs to happen. I almost wonder if size is better than weight. If body is better than brawn is better than brain at that center position. And I know that's been the attractive feature of Garrett Bradbury is, well, yeah, he's undersized, but he's so smart, and he knows how to call those, audibles at the line, and he knows how to call protections, and he knows how to look out and see what he's looking at, and get the other guys around him in the right spot and get them going in the right way and the right scheme and whatever. Okay, but that doesn't matter when he gets bowled over and Sam Darnold gets sacked for a loss of 10 yards, which is what happened several times. It doesn't matter if you call the right protection. If you don't know that guy's coming up the middle, you're done. You're cooked. You're toast, You know
who else is really smart? My 7 and 9-year-old daughters. They're both smarter than me. And yeah, with enough time and practice, they would be able to get down the idea of calling protections. And that's outrageous to say. I understand that, but you could be smart enough to know what to do. That's why coaches exist. That's why KOC is coach of the year when he was never a halfway decent quarterback. You're absolutely right. You need, if nothing else, to be able to say, "Oh crap," and block the guy, whether you made a mistake in the first place at all. I
don't think we can count on 4 hands. I think it would take more than 4 hands, I think is what I'm trying to say, to quantify the number of times that happened to Garrett Bradbury this last season. He just gets bowled over, He just gets run over, and it's frustrating to watch. And again, that's the selling point. That's why he's stuck around for so long. Oh, he's just so smart. He just knows how to call the right protections. Great. He might be successful somewhere else where maybe they don't need a big guy plugging up the center hole, but we do. Especially when we're going against some of these bigger D tackles in the division. Like, you got to find somebody else.
Especially with essentially a rookie quarterback coming off of a year-altering injury. You need protection.
And so I don't have any hard feelings towards Garrett Bradbury either. As a player or as a person. I think he was put in a pretty tough position. Even when he was drafted several years ago, I think he had a tall task because he was undersized. I think he was drafted maybe a little too high for what he is. And he's had to try to live up to that, and he hasn't necessarily. And I think it's time for the Vikings to move on from him. That's my opinion. Whether or not that happens, whatever, it'll be what happens. But
the one caveat I would have with this, and I think you'd agree too, there's somebody on Twitter, I think it's I'm gonna butcher his name, and that's awful because he's a really good follow, Ali Siddiqui on Twitter. I think he's the one that constantly says, like, yes, inside offensive line needs help, although I'd be okay with keeping Bradbury if they add a bunch of help on both guard positions. If you can make his right and left side easier, then I think that's when his intelligence and his knowledge of protection schemes, that's where it is enough. Even if he gets bowled over, because it's not every time he gets bowled over.
No.
But it's lots of times. Even if he still gets bowled over every once in a while, if they help him out desperately in the guard positions, and then especially once Darisaw is healthy again, which might not be until midseason, that's another talker too. The tackle positions, Brian O'Neill probably had his best year as a pro in 24.
He sure did.
Before he got injured, Christian Darisaw, he had earned a $100+ million contract. He's really good. The Vikings have a top when both are healthy, which is a caveat because you never know. Darisaw may never come back to the same ever again. I'm not predicting that.
And Brian O'Neill's getting older, and
he's 30. I think he's turning 30. So getting up there a little bit, but offensive linemen, they can play a little bit longer than like running backs. But if with a healthy O'Neill and Darisaw, Vikings have a top 5 tackle room in the NFL. So if you can help out Bradbury with good guards, which I think Brandel played okay, but I'm over the Reisner experiment, and then at Ingram, it seems like the Vikings obviously said we're done too.
Yeah.
If you can get two good guys in the left and right guard, then Bradbury could still be there. Otherwise, they need to do something. Like I said, they need at least one new starter in that group of three.
Yeah, I definitely think some fresh air would be good for that line. And hopefully Darrisaw comes back sooner rather than later and healthier than ever.
Yeah.
You never know. I mean, sometimes guys will bounce back quickly from an injury like that, and other times it takes them a while. And sometimes they're not the same guy. So,
well, we saw it kind of firsthand too. It sounds like Darrisaw had a very similar injury to what TJ Hawkinson had in 23. And 24, between time missed and kind of knocking the rust off, 24 was kind of a lost year for TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah, for sure.
There were definitely a game or two where I think there was at least one game where his 3rd and 8 catches, multiple first down conversion catches, saved the game for the Vikings. But I don't think he had a touchdown this year in 24. I think he'll be okay. He'll still knock the rust off, but that's still to be seen. And when you think Christian Darrisaw had a very similar injury, just for that reason, I'm not expecting to see Darrisaw until at least the midpoint of the season.
And the good news for a player like Darrisaw is he's not a skill position player. Not saying that he lacks skill.
Yeah.
But he doesn't interact with the ball. He just simply needs to get healthy enough to go out and do hand-to-hand combat with other players again. And if his knee is healthy enough to do that, he doesn't necessarily have to be cutting, corners on routes, and he doesn't have to be ready to catch the ball. He just has to go out, and he's big enough. The dude's huge. I think there could be this upside too, he's healthy enough, let's put him out there. I don't think we're going to do any damage by putting him out there. And maybe he's on a pitch count to, minimize any sort of swelling or any sort of further damage to anything. But I don't know. I have a little bit more optimism that we see him a little earlier than later. That's just a really early take on all that.
And I think we'd both agree too, his recovery is all the more reason to bolster the inside of that offensive line too.
Yes.
For the same reason that you would need Bradbury to have some help on both sides of him. If Darrisaw coming back is, not 100% yet, it makes his job a whole lot easier when the guy right next to him is really good too. So yeah, they need to bolster that offensive line.
Yeah, for sure. We're starting to run out of beer.
Yeah.
At least I am.
And we're getting to that point in the episode too. So
we've gotten a little long-winded, which is surprising because I was worried about having enough to talk about tonight. But
yeah, Evan, we should never be concerned.
I'm just going to stop doubting us. We could sit here and talk for 3 hours, which would be impractical.
We've probably done a 2-hour episode at one point, haven't we?
We've gotten close.
Yeah.
Tonight will not be 2 hours. But what did you think of this recreationalist? Is that what it's called?
The
Recreational Red Ale from Great Revivalist. That's
there
where I got
is.
the ist part.
I love it. This is legitimately fantastic. This isn't just a good beer. This is a great beer. And I don't say things are great lightly. I will gladly have this time and time again. I've only had the better part, or almost 3 of them so far, so it'd be crazy to say this is in favorite beer category, but man, this is extremely delicious. People need to try this. And all that to say, outside of being a really good red ale, it's not anything crazy. It's just freaking delicious.
It's just a good beer, and that's what I'm after for sure. Did not disappoint. Has that good caramelly red kind of color. It is squarely in my category of beer.
Yeah,
I've enjoyed it.
It's a refreshing red. It's super good.
Yeah. So thanks, Great Revivalist, and seriously, we need to coordinate a trip up there.
What are you doing? I don't think they're closed yet. We could probably drive up there right now.
We'll save that for another time. But where can people find us? We're out there.
If you want to reach out to us, we're on every social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or X. Just reach out to us everywhere. You can find us at the Skol Hop, SKOL Hop. We have a website, theskolhop.com. And if you want to send us an email, we are at theskolhop@gmail.com. Don't forget, we also have merch. Evan and I accidentally matched tonight. We're both wearing the Skol Hop hoodies right now. You can find the merch on our website too.
Yeah. And don't forget, we're still trying to come up with a name for our nut brown ale that we will be trying soon. This is episode 82, so maybe in a couple weeks, episode 84. We spent a little bit of time talking about maybe a Randy Moss themed beer.
that'd be fun. That'd
coming
be a lot
your
of
way.
fun.
So we'll chat with friend of the show, Forrest, and also master brewer, Forrest.
Master brewer. Yeah, that's probably most accurately his title.
Yes, he's all of the things. But yeah, if you want to drop a comment and let us know any suggestions you have for a name, we would happily consider that, because we're still struggling to come up with something at this point. But anyways, expect us to try that nut brown ale very soon.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I can't wait. All right, man. Great episode. Maybe best episode yet.
Could be.
Skol.
Skol.
Hey Vikings fans, Evan here from the Skol Hop, and we just wanted to say thank you again so much for listening to the Skol Hop, and we also wanted to take one more opportunity to let you know that this episode of the Skol Hop has been brought to you by Big Top Ventures. If you're considering taking an all-inclusive trip to either Mexico or Jamaica, reach out to our friends at Big Top Ventures at bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Once again, that's bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. You can get the lowest rate possible on several all-inclusive resorts throughout the region. Big Top Ventures. Step right up to your next big adventure. And thanks again for listening to the Skol Hop.